love cannelloni. We used to have it sometimes growing up, always a meat-based one though. And then when I started to cook for myself, I started to make the spinach and ricotta ones that I really love. But now I've got quite creative with them, and they're really good to kind of play around with and try different fillings in. So they're really good at this time because we can just kind of see what we've got and put it in. So I've had a look in my fridge, and I've got some courgettes and some peppers and a little bit of asparagus. So I think I'm going to roast those off in the oven to make them sweeter and tastier. I found a couple of sausages, chorizo flavoured sausages in the freezer. I've also taken out a couple of squares of frozen spinach. So I'll defrost those and chop those up and throw those in as well. And then everything's going to be bound in a bechamel sauce. So I'll talk you through making a white sauce if you've never done that before. The key to this is to put the sausages into a cold pan and whack the heat up to the highest possible with no oil in there. And then just, once they've started to crumble like this, keep going, don't turn the heat down, just keep moving it around because you want it to become charred and sticky, and then you're going to get the most amazing flavour. Basic ingredients for bechamel is about a tablespoon of butter, tablespoon of flour to 500 ml of milk, or 1 pint of milk. I usually add a little bit of stock just to help with the flavouring. The most important bit is when you've melted the butter, add the flour. You want this to cook out, and if you stir, make sure there's no lumps at this stage, and you pick out the flour, then the bechamel will be perfect. I've taken it off the heat now. I'm just going to add a teaspoon of good stock powder, stir that in, and then just start to add the milk. And if it starts to look a bit lumpy and ugly, it doesn't matter because you know you've already gotten rid of all the lumps, so it's going to be perfect. Keep adding the milk now. And pop it back on the heat. And just keep stirring. So all those ugly lumps there, they will all disappear as long as you just keep stirring. Bechamel's ready when it's the consistency of double cream, so you don't want it too thick for this because you want it to coat the cannelloni. And have a taste. If you've used some stock, then you probably won't need to season it. If you haven't used that, season it well at this stage. The basic recipe for a good tomato sauce is about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil in a cold pan, and a clove of garlic, maybe 2 if you like, just squished and the skin removed and put into the cold oil. Then at that point you can switch the heat on and let that heat up slowly. And the reason for that is you don't want the garlic to go into hot oil because it can burn really quickly, and the burnt garlic will make your sauce bitter. But by doing it this way, the oil and the garlic will heat up at the same time, and it will infuse the oil and it will just make it delicious. And also you don't want to heat your extra virgin olive oil at a high heat because you're going to lose all those lovely flavours that are in there. The smell of the garlicky oil at this stage is amazing. So now I'm going to put in a tin of good chopped tomatoes. I'm just going to add in about 1/3 of the tin of water. So I've cleaned out the can, and I'm going to add in about a level teaspoon of good sea salt and a little bit of sugar, just a pinch of sugar is going in there just to offset the acidity in the tinned tomatoes. Then I've got some fresh basil, I'm going to throw that in. If you haven't got fresh basil, you can put dried oregano or dried basil in there, or maybe some dried parsley, something like that. And then that's just going to simmer gently for anything from 15 to 45 minutes, depending how long you've got. The longer you leave it, the better the flavour's going to be. I've put all my roasted vegetables in this bowl, and then at this stage I can just add whatever I've got and whatever we fancy. So I found the sausages in the freezer, so I defrosted them and crumbled them up and cooked them in a pan until they're lovely crunchy and a little bit charred. If you want to keep this vegetarian, obviously you don't need to put in any meat, it's still really good. I've got some chopped mozzarella that will make it really kind of gooey and stringy, which is lovely. I'm going to use my normal Parmesan for seasoning. It just gives a lovely kind of depth of flavour, which is really nice. I've got some spinach. I took out 2 little spinach squares from the freezer, let them defrost, and then I've chopped them up. And I'm going to put those in, just good for a little bit of extra colour and fibre. So I'm going to mix all of that up. Now, because I've got the chorizo sausages in, the flavour's going to be amazing. If I hadn't put those in, what goes really well with those roasted vegetables is just a couple of spoonfuls of pesto. Jarred or homemade is really good. So now I'm going to add in some of our bechamel. And then what you want to do is kind of push the filling into a corner of the bag, and then use either one of those bag clips or some elastic bands just to tighten the top of that bag. I managed to get a hold of these lovely cannelloni tubes from Fungi Delecti locally. If you can get hold of them, then brilliant. If you can't, you can use the lockdown lasagna pasta recipe that I showed you in another video, and just cut little squares of the pasta dough and then put the filling inside and roll it up to make a cannelloni. I've put about half that pasta sauce that we made earlier into the bottom of my baking dish, and that'll not only give the cannelloni a lovely flavour, but it gives them a lovely bath, which will help them to cook and be really tender and lovely. So this is the bag that we filled with the filling. I'm just going to nip the corner off the bag to make a hole, and then you can just squeeze the filling into the cannelloni tubes. And I find it easier if you do one half and then the other half. Some of it comes out, but that's okay. I managed to fill 15 cannelloni tubes. I had to break one in half to fit it in at the end there. But that's fine, it doesn't matter that it looks a bit messy at this stage, because now I'm going to pour on bechamel. You see why you want it not thick, you want it to coat the cannelloni so that it cooks.